So without further ado, I have the absolute pleasure of introducing Sharoz, who is a writer, director, producer, and just all right, one of those individuals who, no, don't come up stage, no, don't come up here, I'm going to introduce you properly and then we'll get you on stage, who is one of those individuals who just is an overachiever, basically, those annoying ones. He, despite having never gone to film school, has produced and directed 5 short films, which have won awards at Academy-accredited festivals, such as Tribeca and Flickerfest, and has had 2 short documentaries that were broadcast on the Middle East's largest broadcaster, MBC. He has worked on various shows for the BBC and Channel 4, such as The Apprentice. Wait, you're to blame for The Apprentice. And is currently developing numerous projects in both films, feature films, and TV drama. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Sharoz Khan.
I want to say that I'm really, really humbled by that introduction, but the truth is I wrote it myself. It's one of those standard bios you keep on your website, so I'll take full credit for that. So sorry, guys. How are you all tonight? Come on, guys. I know you're more excited than that. How are you all tonight? Amazing. That's what I want to hear, because I feel a buzz, right? I feel this energy, and it's not because what people are selling outside. It is because, yeah. I lived in these ends for a while. It's honestly because I could never have predicted this, but we packed out 3 days ago. There have been about 20 people on the waiting list trying to get in. This is just the most incredible thing that's happened. I want to give you guys a huge round of applause for supporting us, for allowing this small film to get such an amazing buzz, an amazing welcome, and an amazing premiere into the world. Please give yourselves a round of applause. I also really want to thank a group of people who partnered with us on this event, who made tonight possible, and who sponsored the event so that we could bring this movie to you. They're an amazing organization. They're a company called Geuronic, family-started business, but they've turned it into like kind of a global empire. They give like, products on home and leisure and, consumer electronics and all that kind of stuff. They've really, really, really kindly agreed to give everyone 50% off on their laptop bags on Amazon if you type in the promo code TRAVELLER. TRAVELLER. In America, they spell it with 1 L. Over here, the right way, we spell it with 2 L's. So, I just want to start by a small story. I'm sure you guys don't want to hear me for the rest of the night, and then we'll play the film. In 2013, I finished university in Nottingham. I did a degree that I didn't really like. So I studied maths, and I kind of studied maths because I was brought up like, kind of learning that these are the kinds of subjects that you study. You go and you study medicine, you study law or something like that, and maths is one of those kinds of subjects. Surely you get a job afterwards and live a good, happy life. My brother is also an investment banker, so it really didn't help that my parents saw a perfect role model in him. And I moved from Nottingham to London in 2013 when I graduated. And London was a nice culture shock, to say the least. I remember sitting on the train for the first time and trying to strike up a conversation with someone. And that person literally looked at me like I was the freakiest person on the face of this earth. And I just thought, man, like, we talk to people in Nottingham, like people don't talk here. So a few months later, I got really, really used to it. But it's actually while sitting on the train and kind of like watching people in their silence, on their headphones, whatever they're doing, that I started getting images of what would later become The Traveller. I just got these flashes of a guy who's watching people, observing people on a train. And this was back in 2013. Cut to 5 years later, 4 years later, 2017. I went to a gathering for a friend. And he was someone I hadn't met in a while. He's also, from industry, director of photography. And I told him, his name's Jeff Sellis. I told him, like, man, we haven't really, give a woo. Sorry. Yeah. He brought that on himself. So I realized that, we haven't really made something that we're just super, super proud of. Like, I was, one of my biggest milestones was I wanted to get screened in the Tribeca Film Festival. I always wanted to do that. And I remember when that actually happened for me, I kind of came back thinking, wow, people are just going to throw millions of pound checks at my doorstep. And that didn't happen. And I realized this is like an ongoing journey. And so I met Jeff and told him, like, man, you know what? Let's just make something. Why do we need to wait for someone to throw 20,000 pounds on our door? Let's just do something. And he's like, yeah, cool, man. You got any ideas? I'm like, yeah, I've got like 20 scripts on my computer. Should I send them now? That evening, I sent him 5 scripts and told him, bro, do you want me to send more stuff? He's like, no, man, this is okay. He asked me, like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to fund this? I'm like, bro, I'll put in 100 quid. You put 100 quid. We're going to have a movie. He's like, oh, but we have to work. We have to make money. I'm like, bro, 2 months, we outside of our work time, we absolutely smash it, put in all of our time outside of work, and we'll have a movie, 2 months. He's like, cool, man, that's a good idea. Send me the script. He read it, he liked it. 12 months later, a lot more money later, we finally have a product to show you guys. It's finished yesterday. And so you guys are going to be the first ever audience. And in fact, you guys are probably going to be the only people outside of myself and my wife who've seen the film together. And so it's my great honor, my great privilege to welcome you to the exclusive world premiere of The Traveller. Thank you guys so much for coming.
I'm looking at your faces to see how you're doing. And I'm not meant to be looking at you, clearly. We'll let the lights come on. Isn't that amazing? I think that deserves one more round of applause. Oh, we go. It's back again. Wow. I have had the pleasure of seeing that a few times to prepare. And I'm looking at your faces to see if it looks like what it looked like for me, and the expectations of the film before we started. So we now get to unpack some of those things. So I would very much like to introduce up onto our wonderful stage here, the producers and the cast. So I'll introduce them when they're sat down. If I could have the producer, Shahroz Khan, please join me in welcoming them. Shahroz Khan, Jeff Sellis, Sean Waldy, Gianbruno Spinad, Georgina Seville, up onto the stage. You keep up the applause, everyone. There we go. Okay, fantastic. Hey guys, I haven't said hello to you properly. That was incredible. But before I go into my question, I'm just going to introduce everybody on the panel so you know who everybody is. So we have Jeff Sellis immediately to my left. Is your mic working? There you go. There we go. So Jeff is a director of photography, studied at Bournemouth, working on numerous award-winning films, commercials, and music videos, including the very recently viral Loki's Ghosts of Grenfell series. We have Shahroz, who we have introduced, unless you want me to go through your bio that you wrote for me again. We won't do that. We have Sean, just go through the producers first. Sean Walden, who's an experienced gaffer, which I'll let you explain, which I thought was, this is when you know I'm a creative heathen, and I thought it was a football manager. But it's not. Director of photography, photographer, long-time collaborator with Shahroz. He has been a gaffer for various short films and music videos for the NFTS. We have Gianbruno. Am I doing that right?
You pronounced it perfectly, actually.
Perfect, thank you very much. I'm just going to say Gianbruno from now on. As close to Italian as I can speak. Actor, writer, producer, co-founder of Bridge the Moon Productions. You've been all over London performing in various theatres, and most notably played Adnan in the feature film Cake. And this is just amazing, by the way, when I read this, Face of Lynx, where you probably saw Gianbruno rolling down a hill, attempting to save a round of drinks, which is very, very important. And then we have the lovely Georgina Seville. And again, I don't want to give the game away, but can I just say, Did I say it?
Everyone has to know.
So everyone has to know. So you probably recognize Georgina as the traveller's love interest, but also the interviewer's assistant at the very end, which that was the reaction I wanted. Whoa, big shot. Actress and Latin and ballroom dancer, trained at LAMDA in 2015, done several short films and many plays, including modern text and Shakespeare. You're all very welcome. That was incredible. So let me begin actually with the audience first and foremost. Here's the question. Here's the killer question. Was he a time traveler? So I want hands up, and I'm going to ask you after the end of this conversation. Okay, so I'm going to ask, if you think he was a time traveler, put your hand up now. Interesting. There's like a third of the room who are saying he was a traveler, a time traveler. Actually, let me ask our panelist, who thinks he was a time traveler? I mean, guys,
it depends on the time of the day.
This is it. Fascinating. So we're going to come back to this. So I want to paint off by I want to start off by painting a picture almost of how you take something like this, an idea in your head, and turn it into reality. And I'm hoping many people in the audience who might have dreams and aspirations potentially in the creative industries might be inspired. So I'm going to start with the producers first, and we'll come to the cast. Talk us through how this idea just came about in the first instance.
Sure. So me, Sean, and Jeff are the producers of the film as well. Sean also plays the gaffer and directs the photography. So the story I told about Jeff Sellis, this is the Jeff Sellis in the flesh, so he can tell the story from his own side. But basically, I've been writing for a really long time. And yeah, I've just kind of always shelved my scripts and just thought, oh yeah, when I get money, when we get to apply for funding or something like that, I'll just turn this into something. And there's a lot of people who do, who are kind of following their dreams. Like, I think a lot of people in film, people come up to me and say, oh wow, man, these guys are following their dream. But in order to kind of get there, you have to work really hard, even within the industry, right? And so a lot of us are just like bubbling for doing something really creative, a fiction project that has good roles and, where we can express our creativity in different ways. And so it was a no-brainer. We just thought, what's the cheapest kind of film that we can make, right? And when they heard time travel, they're like, oh my God, we're going to do special effects? I'm like, no. We'll do a time travel film where no one knows if he's a time traveler or not. That's the way to make it cheap. And
when Shiroz, he sent me basically a bunch of scripts, and this was the one that we kind of both decided on working on. And we had to put like a lot more time than I thought I would. We thought, we can do this in like a month, 2 months. Yeah, it'll be easy, man, no problem, man. Let's just get down to it and got on with it. But as time went on, there were many like obstacles in the way, and locations changing, and locations being refurbished, and it's like
I want to pick up on that in particular. Maybe Sean or Jeff, you can talk us about. I told you I'd pick on you guys. They thought they'd come up here and not speak. I want to get a sense from the location. That you had one particular issue with the location. Sean? Do you want to talk us through it?
Do it.
Yeah, so the main location we had with the fireplace in the middle where the interview is happening took a lot of effort by mostly Shiroz to find, because he wanted that really specific look, the old books, the fireplace more than anything. I think you went through must be about 40 or 50 locations trying to find. We found the perfect one. That was it, the one you saw in the film. And we went there and we're trying to organize a date, and we end up having the date just before that we're going to clear the whole thing out and renovate it. And so it's like, do or die, we do it on this date, or we have to wait 3 months, or we thought 6 months to maybe go back to a place that looks completely different. And then it fell apart. Basically, the shoot kind of fell through about 5 days before we were supposed to shoot it. And then basically Shiroz was back online for another,
3 months.
Yeah, 3 months. And then suddenly it came back again, and we could sort it again. But yeah, so You know, it was 2 months. If the stars had aligned, it would have been 2 months. It ended up taking about 10 months to get like all the footage together.
Yeah, I also want to really thank people because in those 3 months, I was the least sociable person on earth. Everyone I would meet, I would ask them if they knew of a suitable location. And I'm not even joking, probably half of this room has like Google images of, you know, like different locations and different recommendations sent to me. So like we literally, for me, the entire film, 2/3 of the film takes place in that room. For all kinds of reasons, I knew that that room felt exactly, to me, the way I wanted the audience to feel when they saw the room for the first time. And it was all kinds of things. You know, whether it's you know, a sense of mystery, whether there's a warmth to it, whether you're not sure, like, is this an interrogation? Is this not? Is this a study? Is it not? Is this in the future? Is this in the past? Like, you know, all of that kind of stuff just came to life for me from the location.
Just on that, and again, we can bring the vase scene into it as well, which was just brilliant. There's a phrase I use often, which I get used in the world of work that I do, which is the ideal is the enemy of the good, right? So trying to be perfect isn't good. But in this particular instance, you stuck to your absolute gut of what you wanted. Did you have any opposition from your fellow producer being like, dude, there's like, are we going to wait 3 months for this? Why, let's just find a fireplace. Like, let's just do it.
I'll answer that. Yes.
And
I don't have any comeback to that. There wasn't even friction. It was just like, come on, dude, man. We said it would only take a few months, and we're still looking for a location. And we went to locations like outside of London, like really grand libraries, and then also like you have to take budget into consideration, and people asking for ridiculous amounts of money for like an 8-hour shoot. And we're like, come on. And then somehow the location that got renovated, which is the one in the film, we went back to it, and it looks exactly the same. They hadn't done anything to it. And we were just like, so why did it take 6 months? But yeah, then it was just available, and then it worked out. But, you know, we had a conversation about it. We're like, come on, dude, like, let's just settle on something. But, you know,
and the
things
biggest,
worked out.
yeah, the biggest challenge of that scene was that was a pub. And so we couldn't shoot during the day because it was really noisy. So we booked it all night. And, you know, organizing a night shoot, like getting the actor, we had to like constantly put drops in their eyes to kind of keep them looking alert. And yeah, we shot from like 11 p.m. until like 9 a.m. I mean, I no joke, fell asleep twice on the tube home. Yeah, it took me 3 hours to go home. So
I mean, it's just incredible that you stuck to what you envisioned, and I think there's something very, very, very powerful about that. Talk to us about the budgeting and you know, the reliance you mentioned. I think I was a victim to your WhatsApp messages too at some point. So you relied on a lot of goodwill and a lot of people. How do you fund and produce a film like this, especially at such an early stage, and to make it this quality?
yeah, you ask people to do stuff for free. And you know what it is, right? There's a sense of passion that oozes out of a project when people see who's behind it. You know, it started with myself. Jeff came on board. Sean came on board. We started casting. I'm not even kidding. I put like an ad online and said, no one's getting paid. We're an award-winning crew, and we're going to make something. I think I said we're going to make something kick-ass or something like that. And got like 350 applications online, narrowed it down to like 50 videos, narrowed that down to like 10 people, and we auditioned them, and they came through. And you know, they're people who they had a page to go off of, and they liked the page, and so they came, and then they saw the whole script, and then they liked that. And it really is incredible. Like we funded the project ourselves to to summarize that. But honestly, this was a project that was always going to be small and run off of, you know, the passion that people were going to put into it, and that's it. And that came together in a way where, like, I've worked on stuff with way higher budgets, and there's always disputes, and you know, people are like, you know, I don't know, just not as motivated. But when everyone's just on the same boat, everyone's pretty much working for free. You see incredible things happen, right? And I felt that every step.
And it's clear. I mean, just hearing you guys speak, the passion, the uncompromising detail of quality, the fact that you were willing to wait 3 months for a fireplace, I mean, but not just a fireplace, an amazing fireplace, because actually you're right, it did set the scene and it gave everything that you wanted, but to have that unflinching ability and conviction of courage to do that is incredible. So onto the cast, if I may, Bruno, Georgina. So we unfortunately don't have Stephen Underwood with us, who couldn't be here this evening, who played the interviewer. But we're delighted to have you both. My first question: why did you answer the ad? What possessed you to answer the ad?
Good question.
It's a very good question. I don't know about you, but I answered it from just pure interest. Like, I think it was you did put something like it's a kick-ass project, and I saw award-winning kick-ass project, and I was like, yeah, I'm down. Let's do this. And I read the scene, and I was so fascinated by that one scene. I wanted to, as an audience member, find out more. And when you have that passion behind you, that's what drove me all the way to the end, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I must admit, when I first read the script, I think I read it about 10 times.
Yeah.
I had to read it 10 times because I was so intrigued. I didn't understand it at first. And I kept reading it and reading it. I found different things each time, and that's why I think it's...
Do you understand it now?
Yeah.
I wish I heard that for the answer.
I think so.
Which actually, I was going to ask Jen Bruno. You played the character of the Traveller. It's this nebulous, it's this grey, nuanced version where you can't commit to something. How do you practice for that?
I didn't. I basically read the script and I formulated this idea of a character in my mind. And through the rehearsals, which, if anyone's been involved in film, to have a rehearsal before a shoot is a blessing and a half for any actor or crew involved. And we had 2 or 3 of them.
3, yeah.
And it was, I mean, for me, it was so good to dissect. I'm a perfectionist, which is a terrible thing. But I'm very precise in terms of what is said in every single moment, each word. And with Sharoz, through the rehearsals, once that was understood, I was able, through that knowledge, to understand the character, his objectives, what he strives for, what he's afraid of. And it was almost like an exploration for me, especially during the night shoot when my emotion was high and my energy was so low. There was this back and forth, and I had the beautiful Dana as well running around making me honey teas to make my voice luxurious, which is lovely. But it was finding the character as it went along, which for me is, I've never experienced that before, so it was a blessing, really.
Can I add, you do have a great voice, sir.
Thank you very much.
Bring it out there. Georgina, you played 2 roles, one of which had, I mean, it relied on everything that wasn't words, essentially. How do you, it's on a very practical term, how do you get presence without saying anything?
It's hard. But I think because those scenes were actually improvised, so Sharoz had an idea for the scenes, and we just had to come up with it on the spot. And I think, like Bruno, I started off sort of with a kind of an idea for the character, but it developed as the days went on, and we found the character and how they mixed together and how they gelled, and then by the end of it, it was together then.
Can I also say, like, I knew Bruno for like 6 months or something before we shot, because we rehearsed tons and we had we cast ages ago and all that. Georgina had the toughest job. She literally rocks up on day 1. It's like, hey, this is Bruno, this is Georgina. Now act like you've loved each other for the last 5 years. And they literally went straight into it. And we were tight on time and stuff. So it's like, yeah, come on, the loving eyes need to come now. So it was tough. So props to her.
That was the best note actually ever. When we were looking at each other, and your note was like, okay guys, that was great, but just love her more.
And for you, Jim Bruno, in terms of the time traveller, did you at moments have to be the time traveller and at times not be the time traveller? Is that how you did it? I'm so intrigued because and I'm asking this question in particular because we are going to go back to the audience and ask them, was he a time traveller?
Yeah, I found that he was a time traveller up until the point the psychiatrist says, Aunt Lola. And then something almost like a Russian spy triggers in him. And for me, that's the past that kind of flashes behind his eyes, and he kind of relives every single moment of pain. So up until that moment, he is believed to be a time traveler.
Amazing. I'm going to just quickly on Shiroz, and I'm going to open it up to the audience and have questions out there. So, I've seen this a few times now. Intrigued every time. The layers are incredible. Initially, when you said it was a sci-fi film, I was like, brilliant, Klingons, Romulans, Star Trek, it's going to be fantastic. I was really excited. But the themes that come out are really deep. They're layered, complex, and essentially very, very, very real. And we had this conversation last week. I want to explore just a few of those whilst we can. And the first, and I have to write this down because otherwise we can go on, dogma, and specifically the subjective dogmatic truths that we carry around with us from a very young age, often in quite an uncritical way. Why did you want to pursue this as a topic? I'm really intrigued.
Yes, I think dogma is a really key word, actually. I think faith is a really, really beautiful thing. I think it leads to, all kind of, just incredible things, and incredible goodness. And I think dogma is interesting because I think it can be really dangerous. And, a lot of us can be brought up with dogmatic beliefs. And you kind of get to a point where you make a decision in your life, like what is it that I'm following? What is this ideology? And I think dogma comes in all kinds of forms. I think being told that we'll save £350 million a week from the NHS.
Yeah, we're going there. Okay.
Anyway. I think dogma falls under many categories. And so for me personally, I was brought up a Muslim, and in my teens I kind of became a bit agnostic, and just interested in the big questions, but not so interested in religion. And then when I went to university, I had to make a choice. Am I going to choose to follow the faith that my father follows and my mother follows? And if I don't, why would I call myself a Muslim? And so I grappled with a lot of those questions throughout university, and I decided that I do want to be a Muslim, and I do believe in it, and I did want to intellectually, grapple with the faith. But I meet so many people who, between us, there's so many beliefs that we've had as kids that haven't been challenged. And so when I was in that train in 2013, I just literally thought, what if someone claimed to be a time traveler, and they've never been taught any differently? They would believe they're a time traveler, especially if they've been taught to isolate themselves from the world. I watched a Mehdi Hassan, Richard Dawkins debate where, Richard Dawkins asked that question, like, oh, do you believe, a man could fly up on a winged horse, or do you believe in angels and fly up to the heavens and stuff? And, a lot of people of faith are like, yeah, we do believe that. And, Richard Dawkins and a lot of people who didn't believe that just thought that was absurd. And I thought, it probably is absolutely absurd to someone who doesn't believe that. But someone who does, it's natural.
Just on that, and I think it's a really, really important point. You've taken something which is an existential question, and it's very hard to try and tackle that in what is essentially a very creative way. And often these ideas float in our heads. So you decided to not just think about it, entertain it, but you pursued it in a very, using amazing creative license through the Time Traveler. In that, and you dug deep. It's 5 years since the idea first came into your head, and so I almost would love to know, in terms of the human psyche, what have you learned, especially about dogma? And let's start there. And I have one other question before we'll go over into the audience.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're keeping it light this evening, guys.
Yeah, it's just a casual Tuesday evening. I'm fascinated by what makes people tick. This is why I want to go into storytelling, right? Because why people do what they do, what are people thinking, all that stuff is just so fascinating to me. And the idea of people being able to do really reprehensible things, or potentially reprehensible things. We saw that the Traveler was uploading pictures of children, but the question is, right, is he a time traveler or is he not? I mean, if he is a time traveler and if he's been told by facilitators from the future to upload information that keeps the future at peace, why wouldn't it be children, you know, because they're the future. So, so for me, that's what was interesting about it, right? Just thinking of something that's crazy and reprehensible and horrible, but how people are able to justify that as well, you know? What do you say? Like, I'd never sacrifice my life for the greater good, something like that. So in summary, I've learned nothing about the human psyche, guys.
I mean, the timing of this, just in terms of where we are right now, you know, experts don't matter. You mentioned the debates that we're having across the country, where there are climate change, for example. You know, there are hard science, and I use inverted commas just because I think that's what people think, and it's very, very real. And what's really remarkable about this is even we asked the audience, you know, is he a time traveler? Some said yes, some said no. So even then, you're making people dig into their consciousness through the creative process to come to a conclusion. So I have a question for all 5 of you, and then we'll go out there. Does the truth even matter?
Damn. Too tired for that kind of question, man. That's does the truth even matter? Of course. I could elaborate, but I wouldn't pass on to Troy.
Thank you.
The truth is everything to me. I'm fascinated by truth. And for me, nothing on earth is more important than truth. I'll leave it there.
I totally agree. I think truth is everything. And if you use that as a base foundation, that's going to be the strongest thing that lasts for years.
Yes, completely.
Fantastic. Say no, please.
Well, I had a very practical role in this film. I didn't really think about the inner themes. It's kind of, you know, it's what the director's there for.
But the lighting looked amazing, didn't it, guys?
Is that your answer? Brilliant. And highly relevant, highly topical. The layers are incredible. I want you to give them one more round of applause before we go out into you. So I think one more round of applause for everyone in Oasis is going to help us with the mics, I believe. Can we give you one? So we're going to take answers. We'll take them in rounds of 3. Make them interesting. Make them ideally pithy and succinct if we can. So, who's got questions? Oh, amazing. Should we go there first, and then we'll go there next?
Hey guys, congratulations everyone. This was interesting. Quick comment, actually. So when in the scene where he gets sort of intercepted or abducted when he's on his computers and he's looking at kids, and what you just said, which was the future, and he's trying to secure the future, and what we heard about his troubled upbringing. For me, that seemed as if, you know, someone who can't attach himself to other people, he has troubled upbringing. What's he doing on a computer with pictures of children? So it was these things, and then he's being interrogated in a room, playing the pleading insanity. There was a completely different sort of chain of thought that was going through my mind at that point, but it sort of shifted. My question is, at the end, when the interrogator leaves the room, you go from this very rich, library with books and a fireplace and a warm, colorful, vibrant room, and you're in this white clinical place with a disembodied door and one piece of furniture. I mean, was that because of the renovation, or is there some other meaning behind that?
Okay,
what is that?
Let's take that question, and to supplement it, I have a question that hopefully is one that we can answer before that one. What was the Latin phrase that was being chanted?
Oh gosh. Do you have the translation for it?
I do, but I'm not going to say it. There's about 100 people or something in the world who know Latin fluently. If you're one of those 100 people, you got it. And if not, then it's just an Easter egg that will die in the grave.
Well, that was useful. Thank you. Do you want to answer the question now, Shiroz?
Yeah. Are we gonna do?
I mean, I think that was quite a meaty question. Let's try and get that, and then we'll go around and ask a few.
Yeah, so like I said, I feel like everything in the film hinges on the question, is he a time traveler or is he not? And in fact, to be honest, we put in a lot of work to ensure that for the different interpretations that I felt people would have, that there's enough evidence to support each one. And you saw that the audience was split today. The audience was 50-50 split when I sent the script around to some people, and it's been like that from the beginning. So, you know, he could very much be doing what the initial implication is, I think, right? He was captured for it. You know, he was obviously caught, and yeah, to me, you know, anything to do with children is just one of the most reprehensible acts, one of the most horrid acts that humanity can ever do. And so I'd say very much there's that element to it. You know, we showed that he potentially had an abusive childhood, and he potentially was a part of, you know, a group like uploading these kinds of images online. But then, if he is a time traveler, and if he has been given this sacred mission, what does that mean about what he was doing? And the juxtaposition between the White Room and the pub area, it was. So I knew that had to take place in a White Room, and that was another thing that we had to kind of argue about and see logistically if we're going to do that or if not. And part of it was, I learned a new word on the film, anachronistic. I hope I'm using it correctly, but it's basically not being able to tell, like, you know, time and place, you know, and era and that kind of thing. And I wanted it to be anachronistic from the beginning, you know. There's an old tape recorder that's actually playing tape. We got that off eBay. You know, there's an old 60s monitor. None of them have phones or anything. But, you know, the ending seems like it's futuristic, but you said the key word, clinical, right? For me, it's a clinical space. And that's why the White Room was important. I wanted it to feel clinical. And that was the purpose of it.
Great, thank you. Let's now do a round of a few questions. So I think we had a hand up here. Should we go around to the third row? And then any other hands up? If you want to put your hand, there we go. We have one there.
So first off, great job. That was amazing, better than I expected, to be honest.
Your friend.
I say that with love, yeah.
Not anymore.
So I just want to say that, I mean, this was, barely 15 minutes, and it was quite intense. Didn't waste any minute from the film. When you first wrote it, were there any extra scenes? Like, how do you decide in a short film what's important, what can you leave out, what more could you have added if you had more time? This was a longer film.
Brilliant, thank you. And we have a question.
Sure.
Do you want to pass the mic to the front?
I'll come to you third. Just here.
Yes, congratulations. So when people make short films, they do it for two reasons. One is to be creative. The other reason is most people doing short films are doing it to take their career path in this industry. What I'd like to know, and that's both on the screen and behind, because lead actors, directors, and so on. I'd like to hear from each one of you what you actually got out of doing it, either on a creative level or on a path level, because that's kind of why you do it.
Brilliant, thank you so much. And we have one final question in the corner there. I'm going to pass the mic along.
Yeah, again, just congratulations for the film. It was fantastic. I was just wondering, especially with the kind of director of photography, was there any films that you took inspiration out of for any kind of the shots? Because I think there was some themes I was getting. So I was just wondering what you kind of thought about that.
Brilliant. Should we start with that in reverse order? So photography and director of photography inspiration.
So the first conversation I had with Shiroz, and this is a conversation I have with a lot of directors when I kind of meet them for the first time, is, you know, what kind of films have influenced you, and what's going through your head when you're writing these scripts, because we always have references just kind of bouncing around in there, and so it's important that way. I'm sort of in Shiroz's head a little bit, and he kind of gets what I'm about, and then that way there's no surprises on the day. We're not just oh, we didn't discuss this. It's we're both on the same page, and that helps especially when you're filming, when you're doing like a night shoot, because your brain's not, it's like 50% there, and you're exhausted, and you're overdosing on caffeine, and you know you're acting strange, so you just have to kind of be on the ball. So let's see what we reference for this. There were certain scenes in Social Network, like the opening scene. I don't know if you guys remember that film, but they're just having a conversation, and it was a certain mood that we wanted to get, which that has, and you know, we wanted to kind of recreate it, but not make it 100% the same. Yeah, Mr. Robot was another one. I almost forgot that one. Really interesting show, has a really strange kind of atmosphere. And we wanted to kind of recreate that, but not copy it. Like, they uses very unorthodox shots, and we just kind of kept it a bit more traditional, but still trying to keep that mood. So, yeah, hope that helps.
Perfect, thank you very much. And then maybe we can go to the question over there around short film scenes. How do you make a decision choice?
Yeah, it's really, really tough. So what's not standard in filmmaking generally is for the director to also be the producer and for the director to also be the editor. So both things kind of are complicated. Producers deal a lot with logistical stuff. So like the day before that vase throwing scene, that was like a headache. You know, I had to find a place where I could smash a vase against a wall and not have to lose a deposit. We ended up using my flat. My wife was thrilled about it. So yeah, we did that. And the day before, I'm running around the charity shops trying to get paintings to, like, you know, dress up the room. And like, I stick a painting there, and I tell Bruno, look, I want you to get mad. I want you to improvise. I want you to throw it like there's no tomorrow. But you can't miss that painting, because if you get the wall, I'm not getting my deposit back. So in terms of like stuff to cut, right? As the editor myself, usually you have another person, because you spent months and years maybe formulating shots. So to cut them out is really tough for the same person to do. That's why you have an editor. And so what my process is because we had no deadline, right? It was a really nice experience in that way. I'd do a cut. The original script was 25 minutes long. Then we had about a 20-minute cut of the film, and we brought it down to 15 minutes. And at that point, you give yourself space. So the more you watch it, the more like you get blind spots and you get too into the film. Give yourself space, and then you send it around to people for feedback. Editors, ideally, but creatives generally. And you find out what's working, what's not. And what they do in feature films as well is they do audience test screenings, you know, and they see what people react to and what they don't. So yeah, cutting it down was really, really tough. I cut out some of my favorite stuff in the film. Has anyone seen the trailer, the teaser that we had online? Yeah, a lot of you have. There's a scene where Steven's kind of eating the carrot, right? I cut that out of the film, and it was literally maybe my favorite thing that he does. And it's because as a scene, as a character trait, as something that happens in the, you know, as something that character does, it was ideal, it was gold, it was beautiful. But it added a minute to the film which didn't need to be there. And so looking at the film as a whole, like, I had to remove it, and it was just the toughest thing I did. So. It's okay, like, I'm okay now. But
I'm sure they're meant with you. So a really good question there around two reasons for why people do short films, creative or their career path. And maybe we can start with Sean on this one, in terms of what have you gotten out of it, both from the project and the film?
Okay, so you mentioned several times that I was the gaffer. The gaffer is basically the person who puts the lights up and kind of executes it. And the sort of things I'm on, it's basically I get there and they tell me, put this light here, put this light here, we want to create this kind of lighting, whatever. I love these kind of projects where it's like 7-person crew, and I have a lot more leeway to try and actually problem solve and think how to do things. So if you say you got like a white room, I wasn't thinking, why is there a white room in the script? I was thinking, okay, we need like a white side kind of area, we need like a hell of a lot of stop because we haven't got a focus pillar and all that sort of thing. So that kind of challenge is what I really love doing, where you like, we've got no money and we want to make it look as good as possible, and so you take it, you try and break it down like in the best way. So this is the It's the second one I've done with Shiroz. So we did the letter beforehand, and I think sort of just the physical craft and how we did it was such an improvement on the letter. And that's just all the experience kind of we've had making these things, like throwing it in. So that's kind of why I do it. It's just that kind of problem-solving exercise.
Georgina?
For me, why I do short films is, yes, to develop in my career and get more experience, but I think confidence is a big thing. Meeting new people. I never met you until I had to act with you about 5 minutes after I'd spoken to you, which was a challenge for me, because you want to, like you said on stage, you get a whole rehearsal process for God knows how many weeks. You're in the character, you know the people, you're friends with them, and you just gel in that process. So this was a big confidence builder, not just in myself, but as an actor as well. And I think, yes, I've got some footage that I can put on my show reel, but in myself, I've built a little bit more of my acting personality. So the next short film I do, or the next stage show I do, I've got a little bit more confidence, and that will just keep growing with every single thing I do. And that's why I do short films.
Brilliant, thank you. Can we locate that other mic? I think it's... Oh, you got it. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
So yeah, that's a very good question. I think for me on this particular project, it was purely passion-led. It was purely the creative journey of the character, but equally, I just enjoyed the entire process. Like, I loved going to the abandoned warehouse thing for like a day where we got to explore, and I love exploration videos as well. The history's full of them on YouTube. Like stuff like that, like, or just the idea of embodying a character that is so detached and separate from my beliefs, I find very similar to Shiroz. I love picking apart the brain and the thought process behind it. So from that passion experience, this was just something I had to jump on board. I'm very glad I did. It was awesome.
Brilliant, thank you.
Yes, a couple of things, right? A lot of the reason that people do short films is for career reasons as well, right? But there's so many people who just want to make feature films, and it's as simple as that. Like, I mean, when I kind of watch films my whole life, watch films and TV, I wouldn't dream of making a short film. I'd dream of making a feature film, right? I'd actually dream of having a packed out like cinema hall, right? So this is literally hitting one of my dreams. But that's it. Like, I wanted to make feature films, 1.5, 2 hour films that immerse you in a universe, make you forget about reality for that 1.5, 2 hours. But not so much in an escapist point of view, but more as a lens to understand what's going on around you. That's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in those conversations, those discussions, whether it's a sci-fi time travel film, whether it's a family drama. And I think I was a little bit like a niche that I was kind of hitting was doing more kind of like inspirational, like feel-good type of things. And like one of the reasons I wanted to do something drastically different was for that challenge, right? I wanted to direct something that was so drastically different to everything I've done. And another thing, I wanted to be genuinely so proud of a film that I'd made. And although I'm proud of stuff I've done in the past, I just felt like it had never reflected my true potential as a director. And I'm still getting there, but I'm genuinely happy with the product that we came up with, in the budget that we had. And so that's it. And so I really hope as a result of this, we can get into some amazing film festivals, hoping we can win some awards. And I would love for the opportunity to expand this universe, or to talk about something completely different, But I'd love to do that in a feature film format or TV drama or something like that. That would be my ambition.
Yeah, I agree with Shiroz, and at the same time with Sean about from a creative standpoint, it's just working with people that are just as passionate as you and trying to put something together and working with a budget and trying to come up with solutions. And I think that helps you in the long run in your career as well, because when you get on the bigger projects, you have solutions that you figured out. Well, oh look, we can only afford 2 lights, let's say. How do we work with this and still produce a good image that still serves the story and is of a high standard? And yeah, I mean, it's just a great project to work on, and I think creatively we all learned a lot. We learned how to move quickly and get what we needed on like a very tight. It was a ridiculously tight schedule, and yeah, I think the final product was great because of that. And Carrera as well, yeah, I'll hope to work on a feature one day, and you know, everything's like a stepping stone to get towards that. And yeah, I hope it works out. So yeah,
that's amazing. Can I just comment on how refreshing it is to hear someone talk about their dream, their vision, and then making it a reality. I mean, you've literally packed out a cinema hall here where you are showing something that you're very proud of. And I'm sure everyone in this room has an idea that they think is going to make them £1 million, that they're convinced. And then it happens, and they're like, yeah, that was my idea. And it takes a very special kind of person to do it themselves. So for that, big well done. I think that in itself deserves a massive round of applause. Okay, so I think we have time for one more round of questions. They can be deep, they can be simple. You can ask questions about the plot if you're still confused. Okay, we have a question there, and right at the front. Brilliant. On to you next, and then maybe one final question.
I didn't get to see the film, but I'm here for the Q&A, so that's good enough, I suppose. I don't know how to word this question. It's kind of like two questions, but I'll try to ask it as one. Essentially, it would be interesting to hear from some of the crew and some of the actors on their perspectives on the medium of film and how they see film and storytelling and what it means to them, if that's not too complicated. And also the importance of storytelling as well to you personally, and how important you think film is as a medium, because this is something that I've been thinking about, and I won't go too long into this, but I think that understanding the experiences that shape people is just so important, to me at least, something that I'm coming to realise.
No, it's gone. Thank you very much. Great question. I think we had a hand up over in the corner there, and then fantastic. We'll go to you.
Hi, mine is quite technical. Great film. What is their name? I wanted to ask how you get the emotional maturity out of young actors, which is quite a difficult thing to do. I don't know how you did it, so I was very curious.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And we have a final question right there in the middle.
Sorry, what's the middle?
Great job, guys. Very impressive. I have kind of a follow-up question on your previous comment that the truth, you say, is very important. And I think so there may be two truths in this film. And if there's like any criminal activity involved, I think that is not good if that is the truth. But if two people have different beliefs and they both believe that is true, what do you then think of the truth? I don't think that
Brilliant question to end with. Thank you very much. So I think if we can be short on the panel, because I'm conscious of time, great question, especially for coming in. I think you're probably as confused as everybody else about the film anyway, so you're fine. Perspectives on mediums of film and storytelling, particularly bringing in your own lived experience into it. Let's start with Jeff.
Yeah, I think the medium of film is extremely important, and you know, I think films. I don't know if the rest of you agree, but it's changed my life pretty much. I mean, I'm not really sure what I'd be doing if I wasn't doing film. I'd probably just be sitting at home, I don't know, staring at a wall or something. Pretty much, and yeah, I mean, if you just think of your favorite film and how it's made you feel, I mean, film can make you laugh. It can bring you to tears, and I think that's a very powerful thing, because if you can affect someone's emotions like that, then you can, you know, change people's minds and make them see the world in a completely different way. And that's my take on it.
Sure says he's spoken too much about the subject, but I disagree. No, I think we have I don't know. I find myself as both in an audience member and a member of like the film community, I want the audience basically to feel how I feel when I go to see the cinema, and that's to either feel something or to act from something you've seen, whether it changes the perception, whether it affects you directly emotionally, just to jump into that world and that universe and just almost an out-of-body experience and kind of reflect on your life. I think if you can achieve that in film, that's incredible. So that's my thought, just to storytell and to share ideas and collaborate as well, because it's a sense of community. It's a family, really. Yeah.
You say family in Italian accent there. It's a family.
It's a family.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the big thing for film for me as an audience member is escapism. I want to go and watch a film for an hour, 2 hours long, and I want to forget about my life. Not that my life's bad, but I want to go into another world. Not so much a superhero film. It could be very real, but I'm watching it, and I'm watching them in their life, and I walk away and I want to think afterwards. I want to think about what's happened and change things that maybe I do wrong, or maybe I don't do in the correct way or something, and I think about it afterwards. And I think that's a big thing with film for me.
Very, very powerful.
I like film because it's just one of those really nebulous art forms. So it takes like lead from basically everything else. So there's photography in it, there's music, there's acting, there's all these things kind of all have to work in sync together. You know, if the sound is off, then the film's ruined. If the camera's off, if the acting's off, if one element is out, then the whole thing kind of falls. And it's just striking that balance is always amazing because it's completely seamless. Like a film works when you don't notice that it's a film that you're watching. So I think that kind of aspect is the thing that I really like.
Brilliant. And that shows, I'll let you answer this. I'm gonna the point Georgina made is so powerful about, and I think just connecting it to hope what was partly the question, the ability to empathize through storytelling, particularly having people from different backgrounds tell those stories, which is why supporting Churros today is so powerful. And I'm not sure how to monetize this. I don't know what to tell them, but I'm sure we can figure it out. But I think the next question, if you could answer that as well, which is emotional maturity in young actors and how you bring that out.
Right. So just about the power of film. For me, film has really been how I've understood the world. You know, I know people say stuff like, you know, life isn't a Hollywood film, or you know, romance isn't like a Bollywood movie, or you know those kinds of things. But I feel like hearing people's takes on characters, seeing how people react in situations that you will never be in, is really such a way of understanding people and humanity. And even when people do things that, you know, real people wouldn't necessarily do, I still feel that, you know, and I feel that relatability is incredible. You know, as a kid, I was never going to be an astronaut on the moon or something like that, but watching Apollo 13 made me feel like I could, and almost crash before coming back, you know, that kind of stuff. In terms of working with kids, it's amazing. Actually, like, so Karen's here. Do you want to stand up, Karen? Yeah? And is Mariam here? Okay, yeah, round of applause. Big round of applause. Amazing. Thank you so much. You can sit back down. You know what? We were really lucky. The kids were just absolutely incredible. What was challenging, especially with Karen, is that we were dealing with some really like dark material and some scary stuff. And I think it's really about you know, going at someone's pace, right? And making sure that they're with you. You know, you don't need to, especially in a scene that doesn't have dialogue, right? You don't need to explain the entire context of a scene completely truthfully. Ironically, talking about truth. You know, you can. The director needs to get from the actor what performance is needed, and in order to get that, sometimes you think of creative solutions to do that. So when Bruno and Georgina were fighting with the vase scene, I actually told them, forget about the traveler, forget about this love interest, be a couple who's you know, who's just broken up, and you've caught this person cheating, and she's suspicious of text messages you get on your phone, that kind of thing. And they played completely different characters. They're obviously playing, you know, the characters, but that's how you can get the performance. And I think it's very useful to do that. I think, you know, people like Karan and people like Mariam, who was the kid on the train, they're really capable of some incredible stuff and some really like emotionally thoughtful and emotionally mature things. I just think it's important to not say like, okay, I want you to now make this face, you know, or oh, I want you to be sad, you know. I think like give them the credit that they're due. You know, talk them through something, and you'll definitely, you know, with someone who's acted before as well, like some of them had, you'll definitely be able to get something, you know, really special.
Brilliant, thank you. And we had our last brilliant question, which is around, you have two truths. How do you decide? What do you do? So, and is that broadly about right? Do you want to elaborate a bit more?
I guess it's just in some cases there is one official truth, which is maybe by science or by just reason. But in some cases there may be two truths, and you may just make it may make sense to you, or it may actually be true within your society or within your community, I guess. But because you said so strongly, you think that the truth matters. And as I said earlier, if this person is committing criminal activity because of believing that truth, then I don't believe it. But if there's truth,
it's honestly, I think it's a question of our day. I mean, how do you reconcile subjective dogmatic proofs, especially where two people are coming at it? They both think they're right, and it might result in things which is illegal or non-illegal. It's a really existential question, actually. Over to you guys. I don't have to answer it. Sean, I can see you wanting to answer this.
That's like a 1 hour debate.
I mean, we can honestly. It's such a good question. Shiraz, do you want to attempt it really quickly? I mean, it's.
I'll just answer what truth is to you guys. Who thought the dress was blue and black, and who thought it was white and gold? Right, like it's a good example. Yeah, what?
Blue.
It's a good example, and I think it's a great, like an excellent question. Our senses can really fool us. You know, we think you talked about like empirical evidence and that kind of thing, and we can really be fooled by our senses. When I was a kid, I thought the clouds are made of cotton. You know, and like why would I not think they're made of cotton? Maybe I was just stupid. I don't know. But, so I think it's a really, really important question, and the truth is, right, when two people believe something, it's true to them, isn't it? So I don't know, the existential nature of truth, right, the philosophical nature of truth is a fascinating question to me. I love it, and I spend hours thinking about this myself, you know, so obviously I don't have an answer, but I think the way that we grapple with life's questions, there's a difference in what we believe and in how we act. And I think to some extent, like they're naturally, intrinsically related. But I think what there needs to be a connect with, right, is you know, that what you believe should be leading to something good, right, something positive. That's subjective in itself, but you know, when you see something like that happening, I think that's really interesting, and I think it's good. And I think at that point, you think, this is a good truth. And when it's not, you know, you have to ask yourself the question, like, you know, is this really true? And if it is, like, why is it not having the desired outcome?
I mean, I love the fact that we're in this room, having watched a sci-fi thriller type film, and we're having this discussion. And that in itself is a wonderful thing. I'm going to lower the tone a little bit and tell you about a truth I heard from a young child. I work in a youth charity, it's not weird. And we were talking, and they told me they went traveling recently, and they genuinely, this young boy believed that their luggage traveled via a travelator to the destination. It was the cutest thing in the entire world. And they were like, why can't we go on the travelator and get to that destination? And I just thought, do I ruin that young person's notion? They did. Okay, I have a final question, which is, we've run out of time. You guys are here for a little bit, hopefully. If you have any other questions, please come to the front. What do you intend to do with the film? What are the next steps? And how can people help?
So very quickly, we need to finish. We want to disseminate the film to film festivals. I think what will help is people following the film on The Traveller Film on Instagram. Follow myself and follow these guys on social media. My Instagram is @SharozCreates and sharozkhan.com. Follow our journey. Just support us. If we do other events, come to those. And if you, we really want to see this go far. If you know people who might be interested in watching it, whether it's people in the industry or not, let us know. Maybe we can organize another screening. But because this is probably going to be my last chance to talk, I just want to absolutely thank everyone who made this happen. Everyone here, every one of you who's come, everyone who couldn't be here tonight. And finally, our sponsors at Euronic for making this happen. Like, really, this is an absolutely magical moment for me. And I said this to someone earlier. They said this is just the beginning, and I really hope that that's true. So thank you guys so much. This has just been absolutely overwhelming.
Here. And one more round of applause for our cast and producers. Thank you all so much for coming. I think we gently need to nudge you to leave. Is that right? Yeah. Let's get out. Thank you so much.
If anyone wants to come to Nan.